Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. It feels great to finally release my first ever YouTube video. This is a new and exciting adventure for me and I look forward to creating many more. I'm going to walk you through how I turned my scrap pile of wood into something beautiful and functional. I'll apologize in advance for all the time-lapse video, but there was a lot of repetitive work that took hours to complete, and in the interest of keeping things short, it was my best option. I wasn't sure when I started what exactly this would be, but I thought it would either end up as a bunch of cutting boards or some sort of table, depending on how many usable pieces I had. I had the idea of laminating a whole bunch of strips together, so I had to get them into usable dimensions. My criteria was 45mm minimum height, with different thicknesses ranging from 10mm up to 25 in 5mm increments. Once I had all my strips milled up, I added an extra step where I ran each and every strip through my drum sander. This was to remove any minor snub that may have been left behind from the milling process. I wanted to avoid any gaps in the glue up, and it seemed to work out well. Using a dedicated crosscut blade to ensure a clean cut, I got to the process of squaring up all the edges. Once again, this was a highly repetitive process, making the use of the crosscut fence on my felder combination machine rather than my miter saw made light work, and soon I was on to the next task. I realized this was going to be a mammoth glue up and would probably have to do it in multiple stages, so I decided to build a mold that I could use to clamp all the strips up against and hopefully get a nice flat square panel. At this stage I decided I was making a desktop. I wasn't sure where I was going to put it or what it would be used for, but I just went with it. It's not often that I build without an intention or a plan. This is one of those projects that just naturally flowed. I cut some construction plywood to the size of the finished dimensions of the desktop. I attached a small fence on two sides using wood glue and some brad nails. I also realized at this stage that I needed a barrier between the plywood and the workpiece to prevent them from sticking together. So I used some wax paper and some painter's tape and it did the job. I worked on getting a basic pattern together, keeping the strips of equal thickness in one line, and tried to get some sort of random uniformity, if that's even a thing. I basically just wanted it to look good. So I moved some different wood species around until I had something that was pleasing to the eye. I still had to trim a few pieces on the miter saw to get the length of the rows to dimension, but after that was done, it was glue up time. In total there were 9 glue ups, doing 5 to 6 rows at a time, clamping them for 1 hour, coming back and repeating the process. It was tricky not to get gaps on the ends of each row, so I tapped on the ends with a mallet before applying the full clamping pressure. This was a matter of rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I knew there was going to be quite a cleanup after the glue up, so I opted to make 2 panels. This way I could send them through my thickness planer first before gluing the 2 panels together. I made the mistake of sending the panels through the thicknesser first without planing the one side. This resulted in a slightly bowed panel, so afterwards I repeated the process on my planer and was left with 2 nice flat panels. I later jointed the glue edge of each panel to ensure a square and clean glue joint. I used my Festool domino joiner in order to line the 2 panels up along the entire joint. This way, there would be little sanding required, as what was left was a barely noticeable step. The helical silent power cutter block on my thickness planer provides a super clean finish with very little tear out, and this speeds up the sanding time significantly, as I generally am able to start with a 120 or even a 150 grit. I now have one large panel and it's really starting to look amazing. It's time to trim it down to final dimensions and begin with the finishing process. This is where the outrigger fence and sliding table saw really starts to shine, making this step precise and enjoyable. There were some minor gaps that formed during the glue up. I filled these in using some wood glue and sanding dust. I then sanded over them with my random orbit sander, and any gaps that were there before were now barely noticeable. I opted for an 1/8 inch roundover bit to get rid of any sharp edges. I could have gotten fancy with some underbevels, but I really like the simplicity of the square look with all the different species of wood. This was my first time using Rubio cleaner while prepping a surface, but I thought with this being a desk, it was likely to receive a lot of traffic, and I wanted to ensure the finish would hold up to the abuse. Rubio monocoat is my go-to finish, as they have a great selection of colors and mild tones that really bring out the wood's characteristics. On this project I just went with pure, as there were already so many different tones. Trying to match a color on top of that would take away from the natural aesthetics. This one coat would usually be where I stop, but I wanted this desk to have a bit more sheen, so I used a second coat of Rubio Sheen Plus and was very happy with the results. No desk is complete without a set of legs. I looked at wooden options, but to try and match some legs to the busyness that was already going on top didn't seem like a wise choice. I went online and found these affordable legs on Temu, which I could have never made for the price that I paid. I think the black goes really well and they look great. I did drill the holes in the legs slightly larger to allow for any seasonal wood movement that might occur. It turns out that this is now my new office desk, same desk where this video was edited. Sometimes not knowing why you're building something can yield the most rewarding results. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more.